Hey everyone, welcome back to iTech Aspirant. In our last few videos, we started exploring the core components of Android development. Today, we're going to tackle a topic that is absolutely fundamental and acts as the communication backbone for any Android application: intents. Then we'll cover its types, and finally, the main part, practicing it in Android Studio by creating an app with Kotlin. We need to start components like a service in this video, but before we can even get there, you must have a solid understanding of intents. They are essential for making your app interactive and connected. So, let's get started. First, let's have a quick reminder of what an activity is. As we discussed in the last lecture, an activity represents a single screen with a user interface in your app. Now, let's imagine our app has 3 pages: login, home, and profile. This means our application consists of 3 activities. This brings up a crucial question. If we have more than one activity, how do we communicate between them? And how do you move from the login screen to the home screen? For that, we use a special component called an intent. So, in simple words, what exactly is an intent? An intent is a messaging object used to request an action from another app component. It's the glue that connects our different activities. Think of it like sending a letter. You write a letter that says what you want to do and where you want to go. The Android system then acts as the postman, delivering that letter and making sure the action happens. This is where it gets interesting. This communication can happen in 2 primary ways, which is why there are 2 main types of intents in Android: explicit intents and implicit intents. Let's break them down one by one, starting with the one you'll use most often inside your own app. An intent is known as explicit when you know the exact component you want to start. You explicitly name the target class, like profile activity, class. You use explicit intents to communicate between activities inside the same app. Let's use a practical example. If a user enters their name and email on one screen and clicks a Save button, we want to show that information on a different screen in our app. This is the perfect job for an explicit intent. Alright, now for our second type, implicit intents. In an implicit intent, we want to communicate between activities of different applications. Unlike an explicit intent, an implicit intent does not name a specific component. Instead, you declare a general action you want to perform, and the Android system finds an app on the device that can handle it. You see this every day. For example, you're in a messaging app, you receive a message that contains my YouTube channel link. When you click on it inside your messaging app, this link will open on your YouTube app. The messaging app just sent out an implicit intent saying, "Hey, I want to view this URL." The Android system then finds the best app to handle it. If it finds multiple apps, it asks you to choose. Let's jump into Android Studio and see how to code this.
Create a new project and name it something like intents. Alright everyone, I have a fresh Android project open. Let's start by building the user interface for our screens. First, in our activity main.xml, we'll set up our main screen. I'll set the root layout to a linear layout. Set its orientation to vertical and gravity to center to keep things nice and tidy. Now, let's add our 2 buttons. The first one will open our contact form, and the second will be for sharing the contact info. This is for sharing contact info. Great, now we need the second screen, the contact form. Let's create a new empty activity. Right-click on your package name, select New Activity, and then Empty Views Activity. I'll name it Contact Form Activity. Android Studio has created Contact Form Activity.kt and Activity Contact Form XML for us. Let's design the form layout. Here, I'll use a scroll view as the root, so our form can scroll on smaller screens. Inside it, I'll place a linear layout to hold our form fields. We need 3 edit text fields for the user's name, phone number, and email. I will add hints to tell the user what to enter and set the correct input type for each. Input type decides what kind of keyboard the user gets. Autofill hints let Android suggest saved info, like your email or phone number, to fill the form faster. Now copy and paste this same setup for the other edit text fields as well. Finally, a Submit button at the bottom to save the data. Now, let's set the padding to give our layout some space and make it look cleaner. I forgot to give an ID to the button. Let's add that now so we can access it in our code. With that, our UI is complete. Now let's bring it to life with Kotlin. Let's start with the logic for the contact form, since its job is to collect and send data. Inside on Create, the first thing we need is to get references to our UI elements, the 3 edit text fields and the Submit button. Here we're using findViewById in this activity, but in main activity we use view binding instead, for cleaner and safer code. So, you've also learned a new method to access views. Now, let's add a click listener to our Submit button. When the user clicks it, we need to get the text from the edit text fields and perform some validation to make sure they're not empty. We're checking if the name, phone, and email fields are not empty. This makes sure the user fills in all the details before moving ahead. Inside this, if block is where the magic happens. Instead of just showing a toast, we'll create a new, empty intent. This intent will be our data container. We'll use put extra to add the name, phone, and email to it. We call setResult with result OK and our result intent. This tells the previous activity that the operation was successful and here's the data. And if any field is empty, we'll show a toast saying, please fill all fields. To make our code safer and avoid typos, it's best practice to define the keys for our extras in a companion object. This ensures we use the exact same key when we retrieve the data later. Perfect. Our contact form is now a data provider. Let's go to main activity to receive and use this data. As we know, first let's clean up and remove the unnecessary code. Let's code the logic for our main activity. The first thing is we need variables to store the contact information that we'll get back from our form. We'll declare 3 nullable strings for the name, phone, and email. Now for the core of our logic, the activity result launcher. This is how we start another activity and get data back from it. We'll create a launcher called Contact Form Launcher. Change it to app-compat activity. Now, let's move into our onCreate method. Instead of the old setContentView with a layout ID, we'll inflate our layout using our binding variable. Set up viewBinding for that. This is the modern way to access our UI components, and it makes our code much cleaner and safer than using findViewById. In the app's build.gradle.kts file, we enable viewBinding under Build Features. This allows us to access views without using findViewById. Click Sync now. Then, we declare a variable. This creates the binding object for our layout. Perfect. Now for a good user experience, the share button should be disabled when the app first starts. We'll do that right here. This block of code here is our callback. It runs automatically as soon as the contact form finishes. Inside, we first check if the result code was activity.result OK, which means the user successfully submitted the form. If the result was OK, we safely access the returned data using let. We then extract the name, phone, and email using getStringExtra. After storing the data, we show a quick toast message. Let's import the toast manually. And remember, don't write the toast message right after the closing bracket. Instead, write it on the next line. And, most importantly, we enable our share button because we now have information to share. Otherwise, we'll just show a toast message saying the contact form cancelled. Next, let's set up the click listener for our Open Form button. When this button is clicked, we'll create an explicit intent to our contact form activity. and launch it using our contact form launcher. For our share button, we'll set a click listener that calls a helper function to show a confirmation dialog. This keeps our onCreate method clean. Let's create that show confirmation dialog function. It builds and shows a simple alert dialog. If the user clicks yes, we'll call another function to handle the sharing logic. The dialog shows the title confirm share, and the message asks, "Are you sure you want to share this contact info?" If the user taps yes, our app will call the share contact info function and proceed with sharing. But if the user taps no, the dialog simply closes without doing anything. Finally, let's create the share contact info function. Here, we'll format our stored name, phone, and email into a clean string. Then, we create an implicit intent with the action intent.actionSend. This tells Android we want to send something. We set its type to text plain and put our contact details into the intent as extra text. We add two extras, the subject, which is contact information, and the actual message text, which comes from our contact details variable. The last step is to start the activity, but we wrap our intent in intent.createChooser. This forces Android to show the share sheet, letting the user pick exactly how they want to share this information. And with that, our main activity is complete. Now, let's set up our Gradle files. Go to libs.versions.toml and update the IGP version to 8.9.3. Next, set the compile SDK version to 36, and then click Sync Now to apply the changes. At last, let's change our app theme to give it a fresh look and better match our design style. Now, let's run the app on our phone. As you can see, the Share Contact Info button is currently disabled. To enable it, click on Open Contact Form and enter your details. After clicking the Submit button, it redirects us back to the main activity, and now the Share button is enabled. Tap on it, and you'll see a confirmation dialog. Once you confirm, the sharing options will appear, letting you send your contact info through different apps. And that's it for our detailed intents tutorial. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop your questions in the comments. If you've tried this out, let me know your experience in the comment section. See you in the next video.